fellow diamond painting addicts, and welcome back to Diamond Painting Anonymous. I'm Daphne, and I'm here today for this week's WIP and Chat. If you're new here, welcome. If you're not new here, welcome back. WIP, W-I-P, stands for Work in Progress, and this is mine. You are welcome and encouraged to go grab whatever you are working on and work alongside while I chat, or alternatively, you can treat this as a podcast and just listen while I chat. Today, I'm going to be working on my literate dragon. This is one of my goals that I'm trying to finish. This is one of my spanglers. I'm trying to finish all the spanglers in my stash. So I'm going to move things around, zoom into where I'm going to be working, and I will be right back. Don't go anywhere. All right, I've got my timer started, so I'm just going to jump in and start working here. It is very windy today, so the waves are kind of coming in nice and loud. Hopefully I'll be able to edit most of it out, but we'll see. Maybe I'll go out and take some video of the waves so you guys can see how big they are today. I don't see any white caps, but just big waves rolling in. The weather has been kind of crazy. I'm sure you all have heard about all of the wildfires out in California. I actually have a friend that I used to work with at the preschool. Her kids are still in college in, well, I think one son is at Oklahoma. I don't know if the other one's still in college or not. He might have graduated by now. Anyway, her husband and she, even though they have a home still in Kansas, her husband has been out in California working for years. So I just texted her to make sure they weren't anywhere near the fires. She was actually back at home visiting with her son while he was off for Christmas break. Her husband was still out in California, but he's a lineman like my husband. He hasn't been called to do any work near the fires yet. They likely won't get called in until after everything's put out. But she was back in Kansas, so everybody safe and sound. Nobody had to evacuate or anything like that, so that was good to know. Weather at home has been kind of crazy. I knew that back home was having the big storms in Kansas. They had shut down schools. School got canceled Monday and Tuesday because of all of the snow and ice and very cold weather. They were supposed to be going back after Christmas break and ended up getting those extra 2 days because of all the ice and everything, basically, and the fact that it was so super cold. A lot of rural bus routes, and they don't want the kids standing out in basically chancing frostbite while they wait for the buses to come pick them up. My youngest says, "Mom, why don't they just build bus stops so the kids can stay inside the little bus stop?" I'm like, because the bus stops move around. It's based on who's going to school at the time, and that changes year to year. Especially when you're talking rural, they'd basically be building a bus stop at the end of everybody's driveway, and they're not going to do that. Couldn't even if they wanted to. Then I got a text from my oldest on Thursday night saying, "Let's go." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And I hadn't been keeping up with the weather, I guess. They were supposed to get another 4 inches of snow, she was saying, on Friday. And because of all of the snow and ice that they'd gotten previously, I guess they declared it in some kind of emergency. So school was going to be closed on Friday as well. So she gets a 3-day weekend. And I guess because it was considered a state of emergency, she gets paid. Because the way it works for her, like when they were unclosed on Monday and Tuesday, she got paid, but only because she had leave days, PTO, paid time off to cover it. If she hadn't had any PTO, she just wouldn't have gotten paid. Thank goodness she's been able to build some of that back up since last Christmas when she had her surgery and basically had to use all of it. So she was excited, a day off, and she got paid. That's always nice. So yeah, it's been kind of crazy. I don't know if they're going to get any more snow, if it's going to stay cold, if they're going to cancel any more days. I hope not, because most of the districts, they only have so many days that they can cancel before they have to add on to the school year. So they have the required number of days, hours that the kids have attended school. So hopefully they won't have too many more. But I know we were actually just talking with the realtor we've been using to look for houses and telling him about, I think it was in 2021 when there was that big cold snap, Arctic vortex or whatever they called it, over a lot of the Midwest down into Texas. The price of natural gas is not regulated, and most of us in the States, at least in the Midwest where I'm from, have natural gas furnaces. So that's your heat source. There are electric ones, but most of them are gas. And because natural gas isn't regulated, of course, as soon as people started using more of it because it was so cold, the price skyrocketed. Where we lived, for instance, we actually bought our natural gas through the city, but our city was very small and does not have the purchasing power of much larger cities. So the city themselves got stuck with these big, huge bills. Our normal gas bill was somewhere around $150, $200 in the winter months, 200 on the high side if it got super cold. That month, it was over $1,000. And we had a newer house, so it was better insulated, better windows, that sort of thing. I know there were people who had bills of over 5 grand. The city let people pay them off. We got put on payment plans and that sort of thing. And it turned out after that situation that several of the smaller cities around where we lived ended up kind of banding together as a co-op kind of thing so that they could have more purchasing power so that it didn't happen again. We're not there, so I don't know what that's going to be like for the people who bought our house, but hopefully the cities banding together and being able to negotiate for better prices means that won't happen again. But you never know. So yeah, it's all just been a bit bizarre. Things are slowly happening here for us. My husband finally got all of our inspection stickers and everything that he needed for the vehicles that we imported our car and our trailer. So everything for what we brought with us across the border is good to go now. We have provincial plates and we have all of the stuff that we need and we've got our insurance. And so everything for the vehicle is good to go, which is good. Mail service has resumed, so we are slowly getting caught up on that. We got hubby's driver's license, but it didn't have his air brake endorsement. He went and checked at the DMV, and we were also checking because my youngest and I, the 30 days for our temporary licenses was about to be up, which they had told us we could ignore while the postal strike was on. But since the postal strike is no longer on, I was like, do we have to go back in and get them renewed? What do we do? While my husband was at the DMV, they told him that our temporaries would actually be good for 10 days beyond the expiration date that was on them, so we could come in and renew them, but that we would need to come in and renew them if we didn't receive our licenses in the mail pretty shortly. So we leave from the DMV to go to the post office to check our mail, and lo and behold, what's in the mail? So hubby's driver's license, the second one that had his air brake endorsement on it, so he's good to go now. Hubby got the insurance card in the mail that he had been waiting on for the car, so that's in the car, that's good to go. And then my son and I had our driver's licenses. My son had two. So I'm like, one of these is going to be the one with his incorrect birthday because we had to get that fixed. We did it on the same day, so I would have thought they would have just issued one, but I guess they issued two. My license was fine. My picture is absolutely hysterical. I look like Kermit the Frog. I look like she caught me off guard while she was taking my photo. But it's going to get redone when we get out of the rental, so how many people are going to see it in the next 3 months before we need to move? I'm not going to worry about it too much. My son's first one was the incorrect one, and then the second one was also incorrect. So it had the correct birth date on it, but we noticed when we were looking at it, the address was incorrect. And I said to my husband, well, obviously the post office figured it out because it was in our correct mailbox. So clearly they knew what address it was supposed to be, but they left out part of the street name on my son's address. We thought about going to the DMV and getting it fixed, and I just said, you know what? I'm just gonna not worry about it. He isn't driving anywhere at the moment, and we're going to be moving in several months when this lease is up, so this will no longer be our address anyway, and we'll have to get it redone. 2 days later, we get another driver's license in the mail for my youngest. Apparently, somebody at the DMV realized that the address was wrong, and I don't know if they went in and corrected it, what happened. Obviously, someone did. But my son got a third driver's license, this time with the correct birth date and the correct address. And I said to my husband, so all this big deal about they have to take our US driver's licenses because we can't have more than one, and my son gets three, and my husband gets two. And all it says on the back of the thing with the letter that comes with it is just destroy your old license. But they let us hang on to it. So I'm like, what is the big deal with taking my American one if you can send me three Canadian ones? It just doesn't make any sense to me. However, everything is done and everything is now correct, so it's all good, right? He has a correct driver's license, so we're good to go in that regard. We did purchase a new vehicle. New to us. It's not new, it's a used vehicle, but it is a vehicle that my youngest and I can use to get around. We've actually been using that as our primary vehicle because the heater on my husband's car went out and we haven't been able to get it fixed. We had to order a part and wait for it to come in, and he has to have someone else fix it. It's a part that has to go up under one of the wheel wells, so you have to put the car up in the air to fix it. Apparently it doesn't take very long and it's not hard to get to, but it does have to be on a lift to do it. So we had to wait until we could get it into the mechanic shop. So hopefully, I think Monday, he has an appointment to get that finished. And then he can drive his car and he will have heat. The heated seat still works, and he's got a heated steering wheel, so it's not completely without heat, but you don't realize how cold your vehicle gets until there's absolutely no heat in it. And we are getting remote start installed in the vehicle that we purchased, so we'll be taking it back to the dealer next week to get the remote start installed. I thought it was funny. They don't call it remote start here. I'm trying to think of how she worded it, but it wasn't remote start. I can't think of how they worded it, but I was like, well, that's a weird way to say it, but I can't wait to get it installed. And that way we can just click a button and the car will warm up, and then when we go out there, it'll already be warm. We did have to go, the youngest and I, to the insurance company to sign up for all the insurance that we needed for the vehicle. So we did all of that. So everything is good to go for our vehicles. Everything is insured. Oh, something that was super nice, which I wish they did in the States. The dealers here take care of all the registration and everything. So in the States, you have to take your tag off. The tag is tied to you. So when you sell your vehicle, if you own it outright, you give the sign over the title to the person, take the tag because that's your proof to take it back to the tag office that you no longer own the vehicle. And then they have to show up with their bill of sale and get their own tag for it. Here, the car already has a tag on it. It has the sticker on it for the taxes. The dealer took care of all of that. We did not have to go to the DMV. They just took our driver's license stuff and our insurance information, entered it all for us, and we were good to go when we walked out the door. So we will be getting a sticker for the yearly taxes in the mail that we will then put on the license plate when we get it. But other than that, except for until we have to pay for next year's tag, we don't have to do anything. So that was awesome because I was not looking forward to another trip to the DMV. We spent way too much time there over the last few months. So everything with the vehicles is good to go. Now our next goal is to try and find a house. We've been house hunting. Of course, our price range is a very popular price range and things do not last long. Even though it's winter and there are not a ton of houses, what little ones there are seem to go pretty quick. And they don't seem to be very timely here about updating when things sell. For instance, there were 2 or 3 houses that we had wanted to look at, and when we contacted the realtor, he's like, "Oh, this one is already sold, and this one has a contract with a backup contract on it." Well, then why is it still listed? I mean, I guess until the contract officially goes through, but you could at least put, like in the States when we were looking, if it had an offer, they would put pending on it so that you knew there was a contract pending. Because for me, I'm just not even going to look at those. If it falls through and then they come back on the market, great, but there's no sense wasting my time with it, going to look at it and then saying, yeah, I like this house when somebody's already beat me to the punch. And then there was one that came on the market that was a duplex that looked like it would be the perfect setup for us, that we could use the other side of the duplex either for my youngest to have his own place or we could rent it out to help with the mortgage. And when we looked at it, it was listed as possible income property. And I said to my husband, does that mean it has tenants, current tenants? Because I would think that would be listed. Because if you were going to buy it and live in it yourself, there's rules about how much notice you have to give to the tenants before they have to be gone and all that kind of stuff. And we're on a time crunch here because we're running up against when our rental runs out. So my husband and I looked, and it didn't say that it had any tenants in it. And I was like, okay, well, tell him that we want to go look at this one. After we emailed him and said, can we see this one? Oh, it's got tenants in it. We have to give them 90 days notice, so we wouldn't be able to move in the time frame that we needed. Which, okay, fine. I totally understand that, but why not put that on the listing? So I was a little annoyed. So we've talked about what our options are, whether we can increase our budget, maybe get some houses that we didn't think we could look at. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just going to trust that things are going to work out. The perfect house will come up and we'll be the ones who get it. We've looked at a couple that would work, but just or more compromises than I want to make. I know we're going to have to compromise on some stuff. Things here just aren't the same. Master en-suites are not a big thing here in the area where we are. And I would like 2 bathrooms, 2 full bathrooms, not just a bathroom and a powder room. That is turning out to be pretty hard to come by as well. So again, like I said, I'm just going to trust that it will show up in its own good time. It'll be the perfect house for us. We did see one as soon as we walked in. You could tell the people who lived there smoked. And I told my husband immediately, this is a no for me. So it was a bit disappointing because it would have been a decent house for us. A bit of a weird layout, but we're finding that with a lot of these places. They're old houses that have had updates done to them. Old houses tend to have a lot of smaller rooms. Sometimes the updates include making those rooms a bit bigger, sometimes they don't, but it does tend to make the houses feel a bit choppy. And I would be okay with doing some that need some updates. I just don't want to get something that we're going to have to do like a complete renovation on. We don't have the money for that, for one. And two, I don't want to live in a renovation zone. Been there, done that several times in my life, and not something I want to repeat. Speaking of all of the bad weather that was around here, I was telling you about all the snow and everything. I forgot to mention, I did go back and buy some of those little ice cleat things for my shoes, for my boots. So when my youngest and I go out walking, I still managed to almost fall the other day. Where we walked down on the beach, there's kind of a big dip where the waves have eroded away the edge of the beach. In fact, there are some people down the road from us who have had a bunch of really big boulders delivered. There's 3 houses that they've been on the beach with a big bulldozer scoop and placing big boulders in front of the kind of edge where you walk down to the beach to keep the ground from eroding anymore. I don't know if it's up to the individual homeowners to do that. I'm assuming maybe something that the people who own our rental may need to look at in the future because there's major changes just in the few months that we've been here. If it was my property, I would be paying to add that in. But that's one of the reasons we're not staying here. I don't want to be that close to the water for that very reason. Anyway, I got ice cleats for my shoes, and it wasn't the ice that made me fall, but it snowed, and I couldn't quite see where I was going, and my foot tipped forward without me expecting it to. Almost went down again. Didn't fall, but definitely tweaked my knee again. So I told my husband I've got to get back on my sugar-free, gluten-free diet. I have not been very good about that since we've moved here, and I think that is part of the aggravation of my knee. I mean, yes, I've tweaked it several times, but I had actually gotten to a place where it was feeling pretty good, and I think I just need to get back on that anti-inflammatory diet and see if I can get back to where I was previously. The other thing that we managed to do, Abby and I had already made one trip to the States to get prescriptions filled. He was in need of a couple more. So basically, we had to take our prescriptions receipts with us from where we'd had them filled before. You go to this clinic, there was a $200 per person international fee, basically. And then the doctor at the clinic will write a prescription for here in Canada so we could get the medicines filled here in Canada. So once we did all that, we were able to get our prescriptions filled at a pharmacy here, so we didn't have to drive back across the border to get them filled. So we go to the pharmacy to pick up the prescriptions, and one of them is for my husband. It's a medicine that there is no generic available in the States, so it's rather expensive. And we had checked into how much it would be, and we were told it would be around $100 a month for a supply of this medicine, which seemed mind-boggling because it's more like $500 a month in the States. Now, our insurance covers part of that, but still, it's expensive because there's no generic available. When we get to the pharmacy to pick up the meds, it's way less than we were expecting. And as she was going over the medicine with him, I said, what medicine is that? Because I didn't recognize the name. And she said, oh, it's the generic for this medicine. And I said, I thought there wasn't a generic available. And she said, no, we have a generic available here in Canada. So there is a generic available, but because of weird, stupid US laws, it's not available in the States because Big Pharma, just ridiculous. It was infuriating. So a generic exists, it's just not one we can access. So we're paying 4 times as much for why? Just because the drug company wants to make a buttload of money. That's not unexpected, but still irritating. So even paying the $200 international fee, we actually ended up paying less for his drugs than we had expected, which was a nice surprise. I need to do some things like find a eye doctor for all of us. My son wears contacts. I basically just wear reading glasses, as does my husband. We don't really require glasses for driving or anything, but I had LASIK surgery to repair my eyesight several years ago, many years ago at this point. So I like to go in every year just to get everything checked and make sure nothing is going wrong. So I need to find us an eye doctor and also find us a dentist. I think that's everything that I wanted to tell you guys for my life update. So let's jump into my diamond painting life. What's going on in my diamond painting life? Not a ton at the moment. I am working on this kit and trying to get it finished. I did a video reviewing all of my finishes for 2024. And then I did my post-completion review of the Batman kit, the little one that was my last finish of 2024. And then I did a review of my video for my first finish of 2025, which was my temperature kit for last year. I think it turned out really well. Again, I feel like I should have divided it up so I was using highs and lows and actually using all of the drills I got sent. The lady that sells them at Craft Pack Canada did leave a comment on the video and said that she does the highs and lows just to cover everything because you don't know, obviously, what the temperature is going to be. So sending out more drills than you need is preferable to not having what you need, right? And I get that. It just feels like a little bit of a waste, I guess, to me. And someone suggested that I do it again, but do it half and half, or do it half US, half Canada, which is an interesting idea, but I don't know if I want to do a kit like that again. I might give it a go as an actual crochet blanket at some point, possibly after we move. I don't have anywhere to store. I did bring all my crochet hooks with me, but I did not bring any yarn or anything like that. So before I commit to a big project like that, I want to get any moving that we're going to be doing behind us. I really want to find a house and just be done moving, but hubby and I have also talked about, because of the situation with the market and everything, we may end up moving into an apartment and living in an apartment for a while until we can find the house for us, which means 2 moves, so something I'm not super happy about. But again, I'm just going to trust that the house for us shows up at the right time and we're able to do what we want. We've been pretty lucky so far. I'm going to cross my fingers that that luck continues to hold. But if any of you want to shoot good vibes, good thoughts my way, I would appreciate that as well. I just want to feel settled, and I don't yet. And I think that's been some of my struggles. Okay, anyway, I got a little bit off track there. So I finished the temperature diamond painting kit. I'm working on, obviously, as you can see here, my literate dragon. One of my goals this year is to finish all of the spanglers in my stash. So this is the oldest one, so I'm working on this first. I also did a stash video. If you missed that, it went out yesterday, so go check that out. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss any future videos. I did ask people to leave me a comment and let me know what kit they would like to see me work on. One of my goals this year is also to get my stash down to a more manageable level. And I think I'm going to take a page out of my financial book. One of the things that I did to get us kind of debt free was I started paying off our smallest debt first. And that sometimes doesn't make financial sense to people because our smallest debt wasn't necessarily our debt that had the highest interest rate. Psychologically speaking, what it did was let me pay off a debt and feel like I was making progress, which motivated me to move to the next one and keep going. So I think I'm going to take a page out of that playbook, like I said, and because I want to try and reduce my stash by 30%, that's the goal. My original thought was just to kind of work my way backwards, tackle some of my older kits. But the problem is a lot of my older kits are very large kits, which take me quite a bit of time, which is frustrating for me in a couple of ways. One, that means it takes longer for me to see progress on reducing the number of kits in my stash. And two, it leaves me without as much content for the channel because it takes me so long to finish things. Not that there's anything wrong with doing large projects, it just is a personal frustration for me. If I didn't have the YouTube channel, it wouldn't matter. So I think I'm going to change my approach a bit. Instead of trying to focus on some of my older kits, I'm going to focus on some of my smaller kits, whether they are new or old. And I just feel like that's going to make it a bit easier for me to see progress quickly because the number will be going down, because the number of kits in my stash doesn't reflect the sizes of the kits, obviously. So if I can do 3 or 4 small kits in the time it takes me to do, say, a kit this size, then I think that's going to be a better motivator for me than taking a bunch of time to do a kit this size and at the end of a month going, I finished one thing, how frustrating. I will be interspersing it with larger kits. Obviously, I want to get the larger kits done as well. I just don't think they're going to be my main focus like I originally anticipated. I do think I'm also going to have one kind of overarching project going on throughout the year, and that is one of my Heaven and Earth design canvases. Those are some of my oldest kits, so there's an incentive to get those done, but also because I'm going to be using my spares. That's another incentive because using up the spares will free up room in my spare storage. So hopefully I could consolidate some of that because those I will be using squares, and the squares are what I have the most of. I currently have 2 boxes. If I could use up a bunch of those and consolidate them down to 1 box, that would be amazing. And one of my Heaven and Earth design kits is quite large, the mermaid one. So that would let me get another large and older project off of my plate. So that's going to turn into a goal as well. So lots of things kind of going on behind the scenes. I'm still trying to find paper suppliers and that sort of thing. I have looked at Staples and Michaels, and I've even looked at ordering online. I just can't seem to find any. So I don't know if I'm going to end up just biting the bullet and ordering from a US company and paying the shipping because I know it's a product that will work for what I want to use it for. I guess I'll find out. I did want to order some more things from Canadian companies. That is also one of my goals this year. So I was out looking on Etsy to see if there were some Canadian companies that I could buy from, not for. I don't really want to use Etsy, but a couple of places that I wanted to buy from, their websites just didn't have anything. In fact, one of the pen makers I wanted to buy from had absolutely no pens on their website. So I don't know if they're on vacation, they were away for the holidays, but finding businesses that are in Canada on Etsy, even on Etsy CA, it thinks I want people who ship to Canada, which I do, but it was kind of funny looking through some of these sites, the stores on Etsy, and finding people that would ship to Canada. I did see, as a side note, some more people who were saying that they would not be shipping to the EU countries because of all the new regulations in the EU about their product specs and stuff. So I imagine buying things is interesting if you live in the EU right now. Anyway, I was originally on Etsy.com because I lived in the States, so my Etsy account assumes I'm in the US. So I was looking at some specifically Canadian companies that I knew were people who lived in Canada. So looking at shipping, and I found something I wanted to order, and the shipping, it was reflecting like $6 and something to ship to me to my address in the States. And I was like, oh, well, wait a minute, let me fix that. I need to send it here to Canada. Keep in mind, this was a small business located within Canada. The shipping more than doubled when I changed the address, even from within Canada. And I mean, I was looking at buying release paper, so it's not like I was buying a big object. It's literally something that could just be put in an envelope. I don't know if it's more expensive because she would ship it with tracking or not, but I mean, I was literally going to be paying more in shipping than I was paying for the product, which seems nuts. So, and I know everyone tells me that's just how Canadian shipping works. I don't know, but yeah, I decided maybe that isn't what I want to do right now. Plus, I've got some other things I got to figure out before I order a bunch of stuff anyway, so crazy. I mean, I want to buy from Canadian companies, but I also need to keep in mind my budget. And if I'm going to be paying more for shipping than the actual item, that seems counterintuitive unless I buy a lot of stuff from one place. Like, I did order one kit, a diamond painting kit from a Canadian company, which I will share with you guys when it arrives. The kit's large enough that I got free shipping, so it didn't actually cost me anything in shipping, which was nice. But it just seems crazy to think that the cost of the kit is enough that it would cover the cost of shipping. Maybe they sell it at a loss. I don't know. Anyway, just crazy. Oh, you guys. And I'm getting ready to stop talking here because I feel like I've been talking long enough. So I look at my timer to see how long I've been talking, and apparently I did not hit the start button. So it's going to be one of those days. Okay, so I didn't get a ton done. You can see here I'm working on like this little jar. That's why I added in the ABs here on the decoration part of it. This is the leg of a table, the little end table next to the dragon. I'm not even at the halfway point on this one. I need to put in some dedicated time over the next week or so I can kind of get caught back up. We were running around doing lots of things, like I said, this week, cars, prescriptions, insurance, all that kind of stuff. So I didn't get as much diamond painting in as I wanted to, but I need to get caught up. So I'm going to focus on doing that in between house hunting. That's it for me today, guys. Thanks so much for sticking around till the end of the video and all of my rambling. I hope everybody is staying safe and warm. If you were in the path of any of that horrible winter weather in the States or elsewhere, I hope you are safe and warm. Before you leave, don't forget to do all the things. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and hit that bell notification icon so that you can be informed of future uploads. And as always, guys, thanks so much for watching.